Joppa Radio 96.3 FM. And good morning. I'm Win Damon, and we have 40 degrees. It's a beautiful day right now. It's going to be a nice day today weather-wise, and a great day to talk about trash. We have a guest with us this morning, and our guest is Christin Waith. And Christin, for those who have known her, have known that she loves to talk trash. But she also has a talk that's coming up today. And good morning. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me, Win. I'm very good, thank you. And I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah. Now, what's your talk tonight going to be about?
We're calling it Trash Talk, but it's more about waste diversion and recycling right, or as the state now calls it, recycling smart. The state has been giving fines out for what we call contamination in recycling bins. And this is due to international issues going on in China and Indonesia and Vietnam. So we are trying to make sure that our tax dollars are not wasted on fines and other things that cause useless waste of our tax dollars.
Oh, okay. So the government's fining the government for contaminated waste.
Well, I shouldn't say it's just the government, because our trash processing and our recycling processing are all private industry.
Okay.
So they are the ones that are levying they're the ones that are coming forth and saying, hey, you have too much trash in your recycling, because then they can't sell it to their aftermarkets.
Okay. All right. And it all comes out in the wash anyway.
Exactly.
Everybody's going to pay for it, whether it's private money or government money. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I just don't want it sounding like it's government being big brother in effect, because it is the private markets that are moving this.
Yeah.
That are driving this, I should say.
Well, before we go too far, where's your talk tonight?
It is at the Newburyport Public Library at 6:30 in the program room. Everyone is welcome. Even if you're not from Newburyport itself, you're very welcome, because we're going to cover what is basically now become standardized throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, what does and what does not go in curbside recycling.
Okay, so curbside recycling, sometimes it's those blue bins. Sometimes it's a bigger bin. I know when I moved, I got a big container. Maybe because it was a house. I don't know.
Right. Sometimes some cities, just as an example, Newburyport, when they contract with their recycling hauler, one of the things that we typically ask for is carts. And these carts are supposed to last numerous years. So that's why we're in the middle of a new contract negotiation right now. We will not be getting new carts, because we just got them a few years ago and they're still in pretty good shape.
Okay.
But other cities and towns also have drop-off. And when I say curbside recycling, I'm talking about Newburyport. But other towns in our general area have drop-off. However, the list of acceptable goods has now been standardized and is the same.
Okay, so what can you put into the recycling and what can't you?
I'm so glad that you asked. I am going to refer to my handy dandy, make this simple for everyone slide that I carry around everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And it says...
Even the grocery store?
Oh, you'd be surprised. First of all, there are 3 points that are super, super important. And the one is we must recycle. The reason we must recycle is our incinerators. There are 7 incinerators in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and all of them are working 24/7, 365.
Oh.
There is no downtime. There is no extra capacity. We are at a trash, garbage capacity crisis. What happens next is we either build a new incinerator, which is disgusting and horrible, and I can talk more about that if you're interested, or we start shipping things out of state, which is hugely expensive, and I can go into a lot more detail on that as well. I'll just give one little anecdote on that, is that West Virginia and Ohio are big states that take in other states' trash, excuse me.
Yeah.
I use those interchangeably, so I apologize if that causes confusion. Well, Pennsylvania, within the last year or two, has instituted a tax on their highways and freeways that if you are transporting trash from another state to Ohio or to West Virginia, they're taxing. So the cost of transporting our garbage, not only is it environmentally awful and economically nonsensical, but it's getting more and more expensive because states like Pennsylvania don't want it traveling through their state, obviously.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, if there's an accident, now you got trash all over the place.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's one more set of trucks on the road. So we have to recycle. That's a given. That's just the way that it is. Now, what can we recycle? And the tagline is, we must recycle empty bottles, jars, and containers made of metal, plastic, and glass from the kitchen, laundry, and bath, period. Then paper and flattened cardboard. Nothing else. And it used to be that we could do a lot of quote unquote wish cycling. The idea of wish cycling is throw it all in and somebody will sort it out. That is not acceptable at all. That is where we're getting the fines and the problems.
So did that never happen, or it doesn't happen anymore?
We are doing this campaign. We are doing this education effort to make sure that it doesn't happen anymore. Because 99% of the time, we like to think of this as education and not enforcement, because 99.9% of the time, people want to do the right thing. And it feels very virtuous to have a big recycling barrel and a very small trash barrel. I get it. Mm-hmm. That does feel good. However, when you put something in that's bad, it's causing huge problems. And those problems have escalated over the years and have kind of come and slapped us in the face because we've been sending so much trash to China under the guise of being recycling that they've they've put up what they call a green fence. And then they've just instituted a green sword. And they've said, no, we're not taking your stuff anymore. Done. And they constituted almost 50% of the recycling aftermarkets for materials. So our world has changed drastically in this market area. So once again, if you don't mind, I'm going to repeat my little tagline about empty jars, bottles, and containers made of metal, plastic, and glass from the kitchen, laundry, and bath, paper and flattened cardboard, and nothing else. And then my last point on that is that anything that is a film plastic, anything that's a plastic bag, that is a plastic that does not hold its shape when it's filled with its material.
Okay.
Plastic bags, tamper bands, the dry cleaning bags, the newspaper bags. I'm trying to think of other film plastics, and of course, I'm having.
Well, say you get something at the supermarket, they put the film over that.
Exactly. Thank you. The cling wrap. We call that cling wrap.
Okay.
None of that ever goes into curbside recycling.
I heard that it gets wrapped around the...
Exactly. People have lost fingers and hands having to clean off those screens.
Ooh.
And it brings the entire operation to a screeching halt, which costs huge amounts of money. That huge amounts of money that it costs gets passed on to us. They don't just absorb it in their profit margins.
Right.
It gets passed on to the people who are causing the problems, the cities and towns that are not giving a clean stream of recycling material.
Oh, wow. Wow. And now, talking about incinerators, that's what they call them, incinerators, right?
Exactly.
Is that the one that's in Haverhill?
Yes, there are two. I think it's actually North Andover.
North Andover. Yeah.
I'm not positive
you're
about
right.
that.
Yeah.
I have to apologize. Yes, they're incinerators. They like to go under the term waste to energy because they do burn up the waste and generate energy that's passed on. However, it's a very, very inefficient form of waste to energy, or a very inefficient form of generating energy, and the pollution is terrible. And they're an eyesore. They're just not a pleasant thing. I would not want one in my backyard. The idea of building a new one is not a great idea for anyone in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So we have a common phrase that we say: we either need to diet or buy new pants. So if we buy new pants, that would be building a new incinerator. Ew. Who wants to spend that kind of money? Who wants to live near it with all of the air pollution and things that come out of it? And quite frankly, it's just not a smart use of resources. So then we need to diet. And by dieting, what does that mean? Well, if we can reduce and responsibly use our consumption, the materials that we bring in for our consuming, we can lower the capacity, or I shouldn't say we can lower the capacity. We can lower our need for capacity at these incinerators. And so that's what we're all about at Towards Zero Waste Newburyport. We're a committee of people who are trying to think of ways that we can make things easier and make things better for the whole community.
Towards Zero Waste.
Towards Zero Waste Newburyport, yes.
Okay, all right. And that's where we find you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So one of the things that we're doing with Towards Zero Waste Newburyport is we're doing this education push to make sure that people are recycling cleanly. But we're also looking at other ways to help minimize our waste stream. And one of the big ones is composting. I think we talked a couple of years ago when we did a composting pilot in the South End, and we had 425 homes that were doing composting, and we found out that the average home was saving about 50% by weight of their total trash. So it is a significant benefit to both the trash stream and the wastewater stream to participate in composting. And we do have a curbside collection composting program in Newburyport. It is by subscription, but we are hoping to subsidize and make it more available to more people very, very soon.
By subscription?
I don't know what the cost is, but we have a provider called Black Earth Composting, and they come through, I believe it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays for different routes, and they pick up these little green containers that people have filled with all of their food waste, including meats, fats, dairies, and bones, which are the 4 major things that you cannot put in backyard composting. So they come and they collect all of these things. And just as an example, some other things that are really exciting about composting: dirty paper towels, used tissues, pizza, greasy and food-ridden pizza boxes. All of these things do not belong in curbside recycling, and they most definitely belong in curbside composting.
Oh my gosh. Now you've opened up a whole new kettle. That's recyclable. But so we have composting, and then we have recycling. Now, what are the and if you do the phrase again, you're
yes, I'd be delighted to, Win.
Yeah, I'm feeling a song.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Oh, I have to find some wrapper or something. Empty bottles, jars, containers made of metal, plastic, glass from the kitchen, laundry, and bath, paper, and flattened cardboard. And that's it.
And then composting?
Composting can do all of your food scraps, all of your short fibers. Short fibers are your paper towels, your tissues, your paper napkins, as well as things that you cannot include in backyard composting: meats, fats, dairies, and bones. All of these things can go to the commercial composting because they reach the temperatures that are necessary to break these things down, as well as the part of the reason that you don't want things in your backyard, these 4 things, meats, fats, dairies, and bones, is because they are the things that attract critters.
Oh, yeah.
So we highly encourage backyard composting for those who have it available. But if you wanted to be super duper good about it, you could also have curbside composting for those 4 elements that do not belong in your backyard.
Now, are these the people who do the composting? Are they the people that make special dirt?
Yes, exactly.
I
Soil. I think they call it a soil. Oh goodness!
It's like in Hamilton or someplace like that.
Exactly, right? Exactly. They're the ones, and they deliver it, and they call it black gold. They've compared it when we have people pick it up at the yard waste facility at certain times. They're like, "This is amazing! It's beautiful. It is a beautiful composition of compost."
Huh? How about that? I'm learning a lot today.
Oh, and there's so much more.
All right, so your talk is going to be tonight over at the library, Newburyport Library. Starts at 7?
6:30.
6:30, okay.
At 6:30. And we promise to make it quick and to the point and mildly entertaining. And we also promise that we're doing it a little backwards.
Yeah.
We're telling you what you need to compost, and then we're telling you, or compost, excuse me. We're telling you what you need to recycle and what you cannot recycle, and then we're telling you why afterwards. Because we've found a lot of people say, "Just tell me what to do. I don't care why. I don't need the background. I drive a car. I don't want to know how the engine works." Great. We want to respect that. So if you come at 6:30, we absolutely promise to have you on your way home by 7:15, 7:30, depending on questions and discussions that go on. And then after that, we're going to explain the why. So if you're curious about, wait a second, why can't I put paper towels in there? We're going to tell you.
Yeah.
But we're doing, like I said, it's a little bit backwards just to make sure that the people who just want the bare bones facts, they can come, they can go, and they can be satisfied.
All right. So last night I made some eggs. The shells go where?
The shells would go in composting.
Composting.
Absolutely.
Okay. And well, I had some a couple of days ago. I cooked some bacon, and I ate the rest last night. But where does that bacon fat go?
The bacon fat can also go in curbside composting, as well as, I'm guessing, the paper towels that you use to soak up the grease from it.
Yeah. Okay. So that goes in composting.
In commercial composting. If you put that in your backyard composting, you might have a problem.
Okay. All right. I had some bread. The bread comes in a wrapper. That wrapper goes
back to Shaw's or to Market Basket in their little film plastic collection containers, but absolutely not in your recycling barrel.
And it goes back there because it doesn't maintain its shape.
Exactly. That's a good way. That it helps very much to think about that. If it cannot maintain its shape without its contents, its intended contents, it does not go in curbside recycling.
Now, on my bread, I put some butter on it that was in a tub. And when I'm done with that, I guess it's kind of like margarine. Where does that tub go? Well,
first of all, let me just say that if you had any bread left over that had that fat on it, the spread, that should go in commercial composting as well. If it's plain bread, it can go in your backyard composting if you have it. But once you put any form of fat on there, you are asking for critters or bad smells or something like that. So bread and the fat we've taken care of. Now the tub. Does the tub have a recycling symbol on the bottom? I'm going to guess it does. And I'm going to guess it has a number 1 or a number 2 on it, which we don't care what the number is. As long as it has the recycling symbol and a number and it maintains its shape without its content, it goes in curbside recycling. And I'm going to deviate for just a moment here to share that, just as an example, there are grains and seeds and things like that often come in pouches, in plastic pouches. Okay. And they sometimes have a recycling symbol on them, and they say number 7. Those are not to go in to curbside recycling. We are very angry that they put that symbol on there and that they put a number. 7 just means miscellaneous. It's not a viable aftermarket product anyway. But these pouches cannot go in curbside recycling.
Because they don't maintain their shape.
No. Well, some of them do a little bit because they're reinforced, and that makes me even angrier because then it ruins my little tagline of keep its shape, throw it out. Or no, I should say keep its shape, no, then throw it out.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, who's responsible for putting these numbers in these little recycling things?
Oh, such a good question. You know what, Win? I'm going to ask that you invite me back to talk about that as a whole different topic, because that is something called Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR, and it's prevalent in all over Europe. But here in the U.S., we do not have that kind of standardization or regulation that manufacturers need to provide appropriate designations on their containers.
Okay. I get you. Now, what about aerosol cans?
Excellent question. Thank you so much for asking. So most aerosol cans, when empty, and I have to emphasize the empty part, can just go in curbside recycling. How great is that? You can even keep the cap on them. So let's say that it's olive oil in those new spray containers, or even cleaning products, hairspray, etc. The only exception to this is spray paint. Spray paint should be brought to the Newburyport Recycling Center at Colby Farm Lane on first Saturdays, which are from 8 to noon, and dropped off there. Spray paint should not go in your curbside recycling. But all other aerosol cans, absolutely. If they're empty.
If they're empty.
Yes. If they're not empty, bring them down to first Saturdays, because a lot of times we are finding that we have people that will take half empty things and use them up. So we're trying really hard to make the best use and be most efficient with all the materials that come through.
We're talking with Christin Waith, all small letters, right?
We don't want to waste any ink.
How'd you get into this?
I think a big part of it was just growing up in a very environmentally conscious household. But the biggest part of it was really, I moved from Portland, Oregon to Stockholm, Sweden. Portland, Oregon was very big on recycling and all of that. I was getting into it. It was very interesting. And to be honest, I was very young, so I thought everybody in the U.S. was doing this. And then I moved to Stockholm and I saw, oh my goodness, they have leapfrogged us. You know, their recycling is fantastic. And I was there for 15 years and I thought the whole world was doing what Sweden was doing. And I'll just give one quick anecdotal thing that was really stimulating for me. I bought a condo when I was in Stockholm, and there were 7 little doors as you walked out of your lobby area. And these little doors were round and they had different colors. And one color was for clear glass, one color was for colored glass, one color was for paper, one color was for your composting, one color was for metals, etc., etc. At the end of each of these was a little door that was half the size, if that, of all of the other doors, and it was black, and it was for your trash. Because by the time you did all of the right things, you should have so little trash that it could fit in this little tiny door.
How about that?
And that was something that was very significant to me. And when I moved back to the U.S., I moved back to Massachusetts, which is one of the leaders in the nation. But I was absolutely gobsmacked by how behind we are in materials management. So that's kind of what ignited it all.
Wow. It just reminds me of a line. I used to watch the Sopranos, and Tony Soprano was, there was like a little turf war going on, and Tony said, "There's plenty of trash for everyone."
Well, that's a big thing. As I understand, it is the trash industry, at least used to be in certain areas, a big industry.
Yeah, but the main thing is that there's trash. People just generate trash, whether they want to or not.
The average U.S. citizen generates about 4.4 pounds of trash per day, and not all of that is coming directly from your home, but it's the things that you consume in their total life. Their total life cycle. So that's a huge problem. But just to give you a little inkling of what is happening here is we are 4% of the world's population. Not only do we use up to 25% of the world's natural resources, but we also generate 33% of the world's trash.
Oh, wow.
So we are heavy, heavy, heavy consumers.
Yeah. So when I get a package of Oreos, that package, once empty, which doesn't take long, that would go into recycling.
No. Good that you asked, because, well, the little tray, I believe they come in a tray. It's been a long time since I had Oreos. The tray, if you look, a lot of times it has a recycle symbol on it with the appropriate number. The tray can go in curbside recycling. Now, I'm testing you. The cover, the pouch, if you will, what do you think about that, Win? The pressure's on.
Well, it doesn't maintain its shape, so you cannot recycle, you cannot compost, you have to put it in trash.
Exactly.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is if you have a dog, give that little piece of wrapping one more life and pick up after your pup.
Actually, I use I go out and I buy the dog bags.
Okay, well, here's an idea for you. The dog bags are great. You're picking up. I'm thrilled. The pathogens and everything from left dog poop is horrible. However, you're using a new resource when you're buying these bags. What about your chip bags? What about all of the other bags that happen to occur in your household that end up in the trash? If they're going to end up in the trash with the dog poop, but at least they're serving you one more purpose and you're leaving one more set of virgin resources alone.
I need a bag that doesn't have a hole in it or it's ripped.
All right. You know what? I'll push you only so far.
That's the worst thing, is to pick stuff up and then realize that there's a hole in the bag.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
I understand. And there are lots of things that are just so strange. Just as an example, I work with a company called TerraCycle, and they make things out of old things. So, for example, I have a whole bunch of clipboards that are made from old circuit boards.
Okay.
But these clipboards come with a cellophane wrapper that not only is not recyclable, but covers each individual product that does not need protection, and it has little holes in it, so I can't even use it for my secondary purpose. Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Which is why I hope I get invited again to talk about EPR, the idea of extended producer responsibility.
Well, there's a lot to learn.
Well, and that's actually a big point of what we're trying to do is we don't want it to be difficult. We want to remove the inconvenience of knowing what's right and what's wrong, which is why we talk about education, education, education. And a lot of people throw up their hands and say, this is too difficult. And what we'd like you to think about is how when you were learning to drive and how things were so difficult about remembering what goes where and what you do when and when you turn on your signal and blah, 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 blah. But it becomes second nature. Same with recycling. Mm-hmm. If we all learn it and if we make it as simple as possible, it becomes second nature and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So if I could, I'll take this opportunity to throw in my little tagline one more time and say, if you can just remember empty bottles, jars, and containers made of metal, plastic, and glass from the kitchen, laundry, or bath, and paper and flattened cardboard, you're good.
Now, is it important to flatten the cardboard?
It is, because the trucks, since we went to single stream, the trucks need to make numerous trips back and forth to drop off recycling. And anytime you're not flattening the cardboard, you're causing less capacity to be available in the truck. So we very much need the cardboard to be flattened. Even better, if you wanted to be super citizen, bring the cardboard directly to the Newburyport recycling facility, because we separate it there and we get much more money for cardboard by itself as a single stream than we do for all of the other material. So if we put it into our carts at the curb, it's great, fabulous, whatever. However, if you bring it directly to the recycling center and put it in the cardboard only bins, then it's even a better resource.
Wow. So they get like twice as much money?
You know what? I can't speak to that. I'm not familiar. I would guess it's much, much more, but I dare not say. Right now, we have to actually pay for our recycling because the aftermarkets have been in such turmoil. But I believe cardboard makes us money, so you can see that there's a huge gap between the two.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. All right. So 6:30 tonight, Newburyport Public Library, and you can start your journey.
Yes, exactly. Well, most people will be just continuing their journey. Newburyport residents are great at recycling. It's like I said, 99.9% of the people want to do the right thing. We're just helping you make it easy, simple, and make sure you know what you're doing.
Terrific. Hey, Christin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll get you back in again, and we'll talk about recycling and all those fun things.
I have so much to share.
I know.
Thanks again.
All right. Christin Waith, our guest this morning, here on WJOP Radio 96.3 FM. We'll take a look at the news in about half an hour or so here on WJOP Radio.